PR, I'm starting to do more actually digital identity than I'm in payments, which is obviously one of the mainstays of Fintech PR. And we live in an increasingly digital society where trust is at a premium, let's say. And I don't know about you guys, but fake news, Russian bots, breaches, we had Marriott Hotel only last week. It makes me feel how businesses and consumers are finding it harder to trust each other in an increasingly digital or, dare I say, virtual world. So some of these issues I think are felt most keenly in the market that we operate in, and that's fintech. Without digital identity, or as most of us call it, KYC, it's really hard for you to get a bank account. It's really hard for you to access credit, and it's really hard for you to take out a loan. So those that can't prove who they are to institutions are forced to use cash. And that's the subject of the discussion today. So I'm going to turn to Tony first. Tony, it's often overlooked, but no digital ID equals no payments, is that right?
So what is fascinating to me is we had a panel before lunch. There were 7 people on the panel. And it was an important topic, but actually, on the basis of digital identity, that is the most important topic facing our industry now. This should be a crowded panel, but I'm delighted to have a chance to share some of our insights from our community. It's kind of one of those slightly esoteric questions, Daniel. No identity, no payments. There are all sorts of things. Do you know this morning I wrote a check? Oh, I wrote a check to my school to pay for my son's cadet weekend. I couldn't believe it, it's ridiculous. But I did it. I realised I hadn't used a check for over a year. But so there's all sorts of ways in which I gave the paper to my son gave the paper to his school teacher. There's no need for identity in that process. But when we're looking at the future, I think the two have to become increasingly synonymous. We will in future, particularly as form factors become increasingly digitalized and increasingly electronic, in other words, we're going to use phones, we're going to use contactless wearables. We need to get to the point at which we have a really high quality, trusted identity form, digitalized of course, that is able to be adopted uniformly, consistently, and ideally ubiquitously and globally.
Great answer, Tony. Frederick, do you have a perspective on that question?
Yeah, I mean, we come from the biometrics world, so I work for a company called Precise Biometrics. We've been in the business for about 20 years, doing fingerprint software to authenticate yourself through, for example, mobile phone, biometric payment card. And we, of course, see that the connection between authentication and your identity is crucial. And I read an article the other day about the fast change of how cashless is happening in the UK. I think last year, or the last 12 months, there were about 5,000 ATMs being closed down. That's about 400 each month. There was an article about a man who was visually impaired. He had to change bank because his bank branch was closed in his city. And he had to open up a new bank account. And what he had to do was to remember passwords and PIN codes that were maybe created 5-10 years ago. So this was a major hassle for him. We think that this is something that can be solved through biometrics. We've seen it already, starting with on the mobile phone side, where you use biometrics for opening your phone, obviously, starting to do payments, starting to log into accounts, etc. But there will be much more happening in the near future.
So, in particular, how the subject of this is the cashless society. In fact, one of my clients, Travelex, put out some news only yesterday talking about how there is a movement, 24% of people, regardless if you're in Brazil, US, Australia, and the fourth market. But regardless of whether you're in a market with a high use of cash, or you're in a market with actually quite a low use of cash, like say the UK, Australia, there's still about a quarter of people who would not give up their cash. So how does digital identity play into that? How can we persuade some of those individuals who are maybe reticent towards a cashless society that actually, getting rid of cash is a good thing? maybe over to you, Tony.
Oh, this whole
or is it getting rid of cash a good thing?
This whole cashless debate, I think, is a little bit academic. The point is, consumers use stuff that they're comfortable with using when they feel as if they can trust it, that they feel it's secure, and it's convenient. And biometrics, of course, is a beautiful way of making the identity process, when you're getting recognised, very, very convenient. When you look at identity in the whole, though, I think the underpinning issue here is to do with trust. So at the moment, I trust this piece of paper that I give to Frederick with the Queen's head on it is going to be convertible into £20 worth of value. It's only because I trust it that it works. What will happen increasingly is people will discover that it is more convenient to use the new digitalised payment processes, and so in time the use of cash will diminish. We've contributed to a consultation in the year on, it was run by one of our members, Link, and it was all about the future of cash in a cashless society, I think, or something like that. Nice title. And we were looking at the fact that some people still need cash. They still prefer the anonymity, the convenience of it. I've got a 17-year-old, 18-year-old daughter. She has a Go Henry card and she has a Metro Bank card. And I said to her the other day, look, you've spent this money on pizza, which has a treat for you. You put it through your credit card. I'll just transfer the money over by bank. And she said, can you just give me the 40 quid cash, please? I said, how much have you paid for the pizza? But she said, actually, I find it more tangible and more controllable. I don't have much money. I'm not a student. I don't have much money. I can get a feel that I've got the money, and it's harder to spend cash than it is to. So that's personal. I think it becomes very, very personal. And we have to understand it's all about ultimately the user of these products and services, and that's what's going to make things like biometrics so incredibly important, because when people get to trust those, they become invisible, and that convenience enables us to adopt a more digital and more electronic, cash-free or cashless payment mechanism than we've done in the past.
So that actually brings me on to an interesting point which I will raise with you, Frederick. David Birch, who also wrote the book Identity is the New Money, is regarded as a thought leader in the sphere of digital identity. He mentioned to me, I think a few months back, that the unanimous ID credential here in the UK is a British gas bill, right? That is where we are. If you want to open a bank account, you want to sign up for another financial service, at the moment we're very, very paper-based, and actually utility bills are going to a branch. That's how we prove ourselves. So I think going back to the core of the question we're trying to tackle here, how can digital identity help to drive a cashless society? What kinds of things do either governments and regulators need to do, the financial institutions, the Fintechs, or the vendor community that supports it? Big question there, Frederick, but I started with 10, as Jeremy Paxton would say.
Yeah, I would like to start to take it from the technology side, from a biometrics point of view. So if you look at that, I used to look at biometrics in kind of the development of biometrics in like three distinct steps. And I'm talking about biometrics for consumers. So I think the first one, I think we can all agree, happened with the iPhone 5S being first introduced with a fingerprint sensor. That kind of was the first trigger point for consumers accepting to leave their biometrics on a device, not being managed by police authority or border control, etc. So that was the first consumer-oriented device using biometrics. I think the second wave is happening now, where we're moving into using biometrics for other type of use cases than opening your phone. You're using biometrics for payment scenarios. You have payment wearables using a fingerprint sensor. You have your phone using face authentication to do payment, etc. And that's where we are now. I think the next step is where we will change the whole concept of authentication, basically reverse it, to say that I will be constantly authenticated. So the idea is not that I need to authenticate myself. The trigger point or the action point would be when I'm not authenticated automatically. So it would be like a seamless experience. We will have mobile phones soon, where you will have the whole screen, the whole display, basically being able to touch using your fingerprint sensor. Meaning you could, for example, place your finger on a bank application or payment application and it recognizes you and authenticates you immediately. We use face to complement the fingerprint. So basically you would not know if you are using any biometrics to authenticate yourself. And I think this leads into how to use biometrics in a cashless society. I mean, we've seen the first signs. Maybe some of you have seen the Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants in China, where you enter the store today. When you enter, there is a face recognition making a suggestion of the type of menu you might want to order that day. And when you go to the cashier, you pay by just smiling to the camera. I think the next extreme probably is the Amazon Go, which has opened up a few branches now in Seattle, where you use an application, the Amazon application, Amazon Go application. You tap your phone when you enter the store, and then you basically walk around in the store. You pick whatever you would like from the stores, from the shelves, and then when you walk out, you don't need to do any kind of transaction or show any kind of application or anything, payment card. You just walk out and you get a receipt a few minutes later, hopefully correct or describing exactly what you purchased. And I think taking that to the next extreme level is to not even using your phone when entering the store. You just basically walk in. I have already created an account with my face or maybe with my behavior, and I'm authenticated. I do my transaction, I walk out. So I would say, Tony, your daughter would probably not even have to use cash or a credit card to buy that pizza anymore.
Very good. Just they'll recognise her when she comes in. They recognise her when she comes anyway. Actually.
No need for biometric.
So look, I think this is really good to hear of these use cases whereby specific situations arise, and there's this wonderful integrated, payments is integrated, almost invisible, fantastic. The trouble is, the things I talked about, ubiquity and being global, it doesn't exist. And the big challenge around identity that we are facing here and now is not that we all think that digital identity is a good thing, but actually we've got competing factions trying to establish their own digital identity frameworks.
Only MasterCard and Microsoft.
There's Microsoft and Microsoft this week. Experian are doing another big thing with a range of PwC.
The IDAS, European Initiative.
Yeah, there's European stuff. So that's the problem. So this week I wrote about something called the identity paradox. The identity paradox is when we will never really have a chance to truly own our identities until the industry gives up the right for anybody to own it. So let me explain what I mean by that. It's because everyone has a vested interest in the data, in the underlying data that is held in a bank account, a portion to an individual's account, or with a retailer like Amazon, who's familiar with the user's previous track record of purchases, or a Spotify, which might know where the person travels because of the GPS on their phone. Each of those people believe that data is an asset that they spent money collecting and therefore have the right to use. So they're not going to give it up. The problem is that until they give up that right to that data, and remember that of course it's the customers, there will never be a compelling case for a single, common, unified digital identity specification. And that's where we need to get to. And to me, that's one of the reasons, our community at the moment is spending a lot of effort. We're investing in a new syndicated research report called The Changing Face of Financial Crime. We think that the lack of digital identity is a root cause of the increasing cost of financial crime on 11 different dimensions. And we believe that while there is no such thing as a universal panacea to all ills, in this case we can really help to reduce the cost of financial crime as a personal cost, a retailer cost, a financial services cost, and a consumer cost, the upset, by having a unified digital identity. And our premise is that the only way we can do that is by doing it together, by stronger together. So that's something I think we really need to grapple in the next year or two.
Okay. So we've talked about why digital identity is really important, and you touched on a really important point there. At the end of the day, a lot of the reason why we ask consumers to go through KYC is to ensure that they're not causing people trying to do nefarious things. really important, but at the moment it's actually quite difficult in a lot of examples to do KYC, and as Tony was talking about, really what would be helpful is a global and consistent digital identity framework. And I think there are fears over private sector companies, like say, Microsoft and MasterCard. In the Fast Company I was reading on the way here, they talked about Orwellian totalitarian society. Do we want those types of organisations having all that information about us and knowing exactly who we're identifying ourselves to? So what could become that global identity piece? And this leads me, and I hate to say it, onto an obvious question around a lot of people are using the blockchain as being a great way, because it's decentralised, there's nobody in the middle who potentially misuse the identity credentials and invade people's privacy. But I know there are other questions around whether blockchain is really the right tool for the job. So, Frederick, what would your views on what that kind of solution might be? And do you think the blockchain plays into it?
I think my view is that it will be difficult to argue and to convince people to place their identity into a global unified framework of some sort. At least me personally, I would have the difficulty to say, press that button and say, I agree that my data is shared to anybody.
What about Bank ID from your homeland, Frederick?
Yes, but Bank ID today doesn't store my biometric data, for example. So that's something I don't use Bank ID with my fingerprint, for example, just for that reason.
Okay.
So I think we are seeing, I would argue that I would like to, we will see a future where I would own my own identity. The crucial thing here is to have an onboarding procedure where you, at the first step, when you do an onboarding of that person and connect this to its digital identity, you need to do that in a safe and secure way and convenient way. So, for example, we have an application that you can use using your face and a digital identity card, passport, or a driver's license, etc., where you connect my identity to some known identity paper or document. But once you've done that, then you basically can start collect any type of biometrics from that person. So I could collect my behavior, my purchases, anytime I log into my phone, or anytime I log into my PC, laptop, anytime I enter in a store. That could be saved, that data could be saved, and I basically build up my own identity. I build up my own authentication over time. And if you would have a technical possibility to store that in a blockchain, I think that would be great. Then you would basically own your own identity, you own your own history, you put it in a blockchain, and you potentially could decide when and if I would like to use this, and who could use that.
Is it one of the advantages of that approach? And I'm not sure what the technical term for it is, but I think people sometimes call it something translucent identity. It's this idea that, I want to, say, sign up for a service which is only available to over 18 to be a bank account or something else. And I want to prove that I'm over 18 to that service provider. I don't want the service provider to know my exact date of birth, where I was born, and other private details. So is it more about almost like a challenge and response? So is this person over 18? You just get to say yes or no to the service provider without actually sharing the data, which I think, given where we are with data breaches at the moment, I think we'd be a lot happier by actually companies not storing that data, but just being able to give a challenge and response with another service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I rather like that idea, and if everything's plugged into everything else, which we will be increasingly in this API-driven world, then that's possible. The thing you started off this whole conversation about was the T word, trust. If I trust this service provider, then if I give them permission to access information from my various bank accounts and ultimately, although it's not automatically available yet, retailers and travel companies and leisure companies and others, then if I'm asked permission for that and I give permission, then there's a pretty good chance that the value I derive from that transaction will be greater. So we think that, and the funny thing is, this time last year, do you remember what was top of everybody's agenda? Everybody was talking about those 4 initials that we have never ever hear mentioned anymore. GDPR. Don't forget that has absolutely now been installed and we think is being largely conformed to in our industry, which is good. But what it actually up is the possibility of us splitting society into two types of user of these systems: the permission givers and the permission withholders. So Frederick doesn't like using his thumbprint on his identity. I'm sure there's a lot of people who go, well, it's kind of okay for me to use my thumbprint, and for other people it's not. Now, if by giving you a thumbprint, you know you're going to get a better deal, because you know that when you next go into McDonald's, they will pre-package your food and they'll have it ready for you at the end of or they will do a Starbucks repeat purchase app type thing, then I'm probably going to give permission. In other words, I will give permission if I'm getting more value back. This is a thing we forget so often. This is not about regulations, it's not about technology, it's about how people behave day in, day out. And we have to keep hold of that. So transitioning to a point in which people trust the people who are asked, that they trust the tech company, the Fintech company, to give permission. And I like what you're saying, Daniel, about maybe a series of sequential loops. Would you like to give permission for this? Would you like to give permission for that? If the result of that is I get better value, more tailored, lower price debt, access to debt, improved products and services, you know what? I'll learn to do it. And we'll talk to each other in the pub and I'll go, do you know what I got today? I got a spare ticket to the Jaguar prize out here in the show, and do you know what? I might be a winner. And that came because I did this and the other. And so you, Daniel, you'll say, well, I'm doing that next time. So that's how it works. But it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, this is the same way that people who are also use Revolut users, like use Revolut, for example, when the opening account is based on taking a selfie, spending 2 or 3 minutes, they open my account on Sunday morning in about 4 minutes. I can't say it's the same for my street bank, so that means the customer experience and value that we're talking about.
Jonathan Wood from the top geezer at MasterCard on the panel earlier was talking about how consumers really need to have confidence in the solution that's being provided, and that as time goes on, I now do not expect to spend more than 5 minutes opening a bank account, because I've opened Starling, I've opened Monzo, I can actually go into Metro Bank and get my card, a physically produced and personalised card, activated within half an hour. That's now the standard. I can't tell you, we as a business use, no, I will tell you actually, it's not great banks. Santander and RBS business banking. I have to change the address on one of my statements for one of my bank accounts. I have to go into a Santander branch. I'm based in SE1. There's no Santander branch, right? And I haven't got around to doing it. I've got to go into the branch to change my address with my passport and my British gas bill. That's completely crazy. That's so yesterday. Those organisations absolutely need to speed up, and the bar now is set very high.
I think Chris Skinner recently wrote a blog about how it took him a day and a half to open a business banking account when in London. So it can be incredibly difficult. But I think, again, going back to this idea of a cashless society, it's so easy to go straight into digital identity. But I suppose when we're talking about how will digital identity drive a cashless society, I think for many people, I suppose most people here at the conference, we have the ability and to a certain extent the knowledge to go and open an account with a Revolut or a Monzo or something like that. Now, I suppose there are people that are disenfranchised who maybe don't have a fixed boat to be able to provide that gas bill, as David Birch was saying, or don't have a track credit history to allow a bank to reward them. So I think when we're talking about that immovable 24%, I think a lot of those people are perhaps homeless people, for example. And it's really important for them to be able to use electronic money. I think today there was an announcement with regards to TfL looking at different ways how we can support homeless people through contactless payments. So what are the kinds of things that need to happen to help those, to help people maybe at the bottom of the pyramid, let's say, to get access to financial services, and then that to help them to improve, I suppose, their lives in general?
I think that's a very good point, and I take it that this is basically how do we handle financial inclusion for
but in developed markets, we don't talk about
very
much,
much.
which I think
That's true. The developed market, but I would also argue non-developed market. I mean, we are, for example, we are embedded in solutions where you have a payment card, where you have a biometric sensor on it. I think you can see one of our partners out here, Swipe, presenting such a solution. I think that is, for example, one very good example of how you can use financial inclusion, or how you can enable financial inclusion. Because if you look at the 3 factors that are required for, well, you require 2 out of 3 factors for multi-factor authentication according to PSD2. One is something you know, something you have, or something you are. The first 2 of these are both transferable. So, I could transfer my PIN code to you, Tony, my password. I could transfer my mobile phone or my payment card, but I cannot transfer my face or my fingerprint. So this means there is a unique opportunity to make sure that, make this strong connection and build trust between a certain person and its identity. And by doing that, for example, you could enable the payment card or a mobile phone where you make regular payments for pensions, social services, health insurances, making sure that it's actually that person still holding that card or that phone. You would maybe be asked to identify yourself once a month or once every week, not having to visit the branch office, not having to register at the cashier. So I think there are some unique opportunities to help those type of groups of people.
Still, for the question of Tony.
So it's a big social society problem at the moment, and it's not just for people without a bank account. There's a lot of people who don't, there's 4 million people who don't have access to any sort of credit because of their history. There's an awful lot of people who don't have access to online products and services where they get the best deals. So there's a whole lot of ways in which people are excluded. So look, I was in conversation with the guy Oppenham, who's the UK's Minister for Pensions and Financial Inclusion, and he's passionate about this. And I said to him, I said, so tell us, Minister, what you would like our industry to do to help our society become more financially included. And he said, I want you to hold up a mirror to yourselves and look at what you're doing and make sure that what you're doing enables those who are excluded to be included. It was very clear. So we have a solution, sorry.
I mean, so some of your members looking at this challenge, I mean, I'm aware of, say, Poppy, for example, they're part of it. But, that's, it seems to me it's more of like a bank account-like approach, which gives people a certain level of financial inclusion. But does that go far enough?
So what's interesting about this is that no one product has all of the attributes, and partly because it's service and price related as well. So what we're doing is using something called, it's a new product, which was announced at the Emerging Payments Awards the other day. It's called the Inclusion Signpost, and it will be something that will allow our industry to signpost what constitutes the highest quality of a financially including financial product. We're starting with accounts, we'll go on to savings, and we'll go on to insurance and other things. Starting with accounts, and what we'll be doing end of first quarter this year is we will be announcing how we think there's going to be about 40 different accounts who will be compared on about a dozen different dimensions. Are you at entry level in terms of financial inclusion on metric 1? We do that, and we then map people, and we give them an average. We don't have a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, or 4-star. The good news is, if you're only a 1-star, we don't tell anybody. But what we do is we tell you what you've got to do to be a 4. Okay? So, and what that'll do is the mirror's being held up to our industry, and we can then take responsibility for really addressing the financial inclusion challenge that I think we're all facing. How that fits in with cashless, I think, is important, because part of it will be relating to availability of cash from an account in a convenient and really very low-cost way, if not zero-cost way. So people still want cash. So I'm not sure, don't know whether that answers your question sufficiently, but it is certainly what we are taking big steps to do this with the support of our benefactor MasterCard, who are behind our Project Inclusion.
Yeah, I think that kind of program is going to be a good thing for the UK payments industry and the people involved. It's a good idea. We're just coming to, I suppose, we will turn over for questions, but I wanted to kind of ask you guys to almost a closing remark, really. I suppose if you look around the world, there are different initiatives focused on digital identity, which have actually segued into driving a cashless society. So in India, I always pronounce this wrong, it's a TAR, biometric program, which is part of India's allowing people to use biometrics to be paid in an electronic way, their utility bills, government salary, all that type of stuff. And we're seeing obviously the IDS here in Europe, and there are a number of initiatives in different parts of the world. So, it's 2018, 2028. What would we think digital identity will look like at that point? Will it be something that's government-led? Will it be something that's driven by the private sector? Or is it going to be a mishmash of both? So I'll ask you both to look into your crystal balls.
Shall I start?
You have the mic.
I was listening to Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, the other day, and he was saying it's quite clear that digital identity is becoming of increasing importance to our industry, and he actually gave a time frame. He said, I think we're going to see significant shifts in the next 2 years. So what's going to happen in the next 5 years? There's going to be a bun fight. There's going to be more. We're going to have MasterCard and Microsoft versus Experian and whoever. There's going to be a lot of, and then eventually somebody will say, whoa, hold on a minute, there's all this resource that's been wasted. Can you guys get your act together and genuinely collaborate? Now, the EPA, as you might imagine, is starting to create this collaboration framework and trust framework. Now, who knows whether that will be the enabler? I don't know. But we'll bang their heads together, and then we'll come up with a uniform digital identity for this country. If we don't have one in the UK, we're going to be left way behind. Sweden, you guys have got this. Denmark, I know it's a bit clunky in Denmark, but the point is it's still there. So countries that have got it will move ahead. Countries like ours that don't, will be left behind until somebody calls, whoa, and I think it'll be the government. I think government will lead it.
Well, they've already done it. So
but they've done it, they've failed. They did it in the wrong way.
So Gov.Verify was just handed over back to the private sector.
But it doesn't work.
They said
It's not effective. It's not the right model. So I'm being a bit outspoken here. That's not the right solution. Good first attempt. Could try harder.
Okay, Frederick?
I agree with you, Tony. I think government will, of course, play a crucial role. I think we've seen it in Sweden, where you mentioned Bank ID. I mean, it's not a government-led program, but it's basically the 4 biggest banks in Sweden having launched this authentication solution that is now used by government authorities, tax authorities, etc. So I think government needs to take a role. But I'm coming back to what I said before. I think that the future will hold a combination of a centralized identity platform and an individual one. I think there will be data or sensitivity that I would not want to share unless I give my permission. And I would like to be sure that when I share it, it's only used for a certain purpose, and I can withdraw it again if I don't want that data to be shared. So I think, in my view, it will be a combination. And coming back again, I think we will see a future where I will not be able to recognize, or I will be automatically authenticated against my ID without being visible to me.
Thank you. David, we've got time for some questions, or do we need to wrap up? Okay. Thank you ever so much, Jen. Good.